In early February 2026, a high-level digital forensic project known as Jmail began the monumental task of re-indexing millions of pages from the unsealed Jeffrey Epstein files into a searchable Gmail-style database. And what they uncovered has sent a shockwave through the global financial markets. A series of 2011 and 2012 correspondences discussing a demonetary failsafe that targets a 10,000 gold price. While the mainstream media remains fixated on the names of political figures in the flight logs, the real black swan, buried in these servers, is the detailed discussion of a systemic collapse where the US dollar loses its role as the world's primary reserve, forcing a manual revaluation of gold to 5 figures. We aren't just talking about a theoretical price target, we are looking at a roadmap for the destruction of the fiat system, penned by some of the most connected and morally compromised individuals in history. If you want to understand why the Epstein emails are the ultimate smoking gun for a $10,000 gold reality, and how this hidden agenda is playing out in the 2026 market right now, you are watching Money Market. Subscribe to Money Market now to stay ahead of the most dangerous financial secrets being unmasked in this global reset. The narrative of $10,000 gold has long been dismissed as doom porn or fringe speculation, but the unsealed 2026 documents provide a different context: strategic positioning. In these newly searchable emails, Epstein, who served as a limited partner at Bear Stearns and managed the wealth of some of the world's most powerful families, appears to be discussing the big reset as an inevitability rather than a possibility. One specific email thread from late 2012 sent to a prominent European banking executive outlines a scenario where the debt-to-GDP ceiling of the G7 nations becomes a permanent trap, leading to a coordinated gold revaluation to clear the sovereign balance sheets. In this scenario, gold is not trading at $10,000. It is reset to $10,000 to backstop the new digital currencies. This matches the AI-driven gold price forecasts we are seeing in February 2026, which project a massive anti-fiat rally to $10,000 as early as April, driven by record central bank buying and a terminal weakening of the dollar. The connection between Epstein and S financial network and the current panic in the gold vaults is more than just coincidental. We must remember that Epstein's primary banking relationship was with JP Morgan, where he reportedly moved over $1 billion in suspicious transactions over a 15-year period. In 2026, the Senate Finance Committee is still drilling down into the Project Jeep, the internal JP Morgan review of Epstein's accounts, and the findings suggest that his financial troubleshooting involved moving large quantities of physical assets outside the traditional Western clearing systems. The Epstein email. No one was supposed to see allegedly details how physical gold was being used as the ultimate collateral for off-book transactions between sovereign wealth funds and private elites. This shadow gold market is exactly what is driving the $10,000 gold narrative today, as the world realizes that the paper price, set in London and New York, is a total fiction designed to hide the true scarcity of the metal. As we look at the 2026 market data, the Epstein blueprint for a monetary reset is manifesting with terrifying accuracy. Central banks are currently hoarding gold at a rate not seen in the post-WW2 era, with annual net purchases exceeding 1,000 tons for the 4th consecutive year. The leaked emails suggest that this was the plan all along, to wait for the debt bubble to reach a mathematical terminal point, and then shift into a hard asset standard, at a price high enough to cover the trillions in unfunded liabilities. A gold price of $10,000 isn't an arbitrary number. It is the calculated price required to back the current global M2 money supply at a 40% reserve ratio. The fact that this specific figure was being discussed in private circles over a decade ago proves that the current volatility in the gold market is actually a controlled demolition of the old order. The panic on Wall Street is not just about the price of gold hitting $5,000 or $6,000 in early 2026. It's about the leakage of the plan. The Jmail project has made it impossible for the bullion banks to continue their business-as-usual narrative. When investors can see the actual correspondence between high-level predators and banking elites discussing the managed failure of the dollar, the incentive to hold paper assets evaporates. This is why we are seeing a capital flight to physicality. In the last 30 days, gold premiums have surged as investors abandon ETFs and digital promises in favor of physical bars they can hold in their own hands. The $10,000 target is becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy as the market realizes that the smart money has been preparing for this exit for over a decade, using the Epstein network as one of many conduits for this massive wealth transfer. Furthermore, the Epstein files reveal a deep fascination with disruptive technologies. that would eventually lead to the destruction of traditional banking. New emails released in February 2026 show that Epstein was indirectly funding early Bitcoin developers as early as 2015, describing it as an exploit for the financial markets. However, his private conclusion was that while Bitcoin would act as the volatility sponge, gold would remain the monetary anchor. This is the not dual standard strategy that is now live in 2026. While the crypto markets are seeing massive liquidations, gold is being pushed toward $10,000 because it is the no password asset. Saxo Bank has outrageous predictions. 2026 recently warned that a quantum computing breakthrough, the very kind of technology Epstein was obsessed with, would crush digital assets and send gold rocketing to $10,000 as the only trusted safe haven left. The Epstein email in question also touches on the commodity for debt swap that is now becoming the standard for the BRICS plus nations. The correspondence suggests that the unacceptable risk of money laundering mentioned in bank internal reviews was often linked to the movement of strategic reserves that were being moved out of the U.S. and into private or Eastern vaults. As we watch gold approach $300 in late January 2026, the market is finally pricing in the reality that the West has lost its custodial advantage. The $10,000 gold price is the market owes revenge against a system that used Epstein and his ilk to manage the global wealth under a veil of secrecy. The unsealing of these emails isn't just a scandal, it is the catalyst for the final revaluation of the world's most enduring asset. The Epstein blueprint for a monetary reset is not just a collection of leaked thoughts, it is a clinical dissection of the weaknesses inherent in the U.S. financial architecture. In the unsealed correspondences from early 2026, the discussion moves from generalities to the specific mechanics of the Great Revaluation. The ratio crosses a point of no return, a point we have officially breached in 2026. According to these files, the $10,000 gold target was never meant to be reached through slow, organic growth. Instead, it was envisioned as a gap-up event, a weekend revaluation where central banks, faced with a collapsing bond market, would overnight declare gold to be worth $10,000 to instantly heal their balance sheets. This accountant S reset is exactly what the 150 trillion global debt bubble is demanding right now, and the presence of these discussions in Epstein-Wes' private circle suggests the elites have been preparing for this nuclear option for over a decade. The forensic link between these files and the 2026 market becomes undeniable when we look at the shadow custodianship mentioned in the Jmail database. The emails reveal that Epstein was facilitating gold for debt swaps between high net worth individuals and distressed sovereign entities. These transactions happened entirely outside the London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, or COMEX reporting systems. By late January 2026, the Powin price discovery in the gold market has begun to break because of this very shadow supply. As gold crosses $300, we are seeing the same patterns described in the emails. A sudden, massive withdrawal of physical metal from Western vaults into unnamed private facilities. The $10,000 gold price is the ultimate endgame of this physical drain, where the paper markets are left with nothing but empty promises, while the physical metal resides in the hands of those who knew the reset was coming. To understand why this is causing a panic at JP Morgan and the Federal Reserve today, we have to look at the counterparty risk buried in the 2011 emails. Epstein reportedly discussed a scenario where the largest bullion banks in the world, banks he was intimately connected with, would find themselves in a permanent short squeeze. In early 2026, this is no longer a theory, the Epstein email, no one was supposed to see, allegedly outlines a strategy where the group would wait for the banks to sell enough paper contracts to exceed the world's actual gold, the technological black swan, mentioned in the latest 2026 unsealed files, adds a layer of modern terror to this 10,000 gold narrative. In a thread from late 2014, Epstein's associates discussed the encryption vulnerability of digital currencies and traditional bank ledgers. Fast forward to February 2026, and Saxo Bank has issued its outrageous prediction regarding Q-Day, the moment a quantum computer successfully breaks standard financial encryption. The emails suggest that the elites viewed gold as the ultimate non-digital insurance policy for this exact moment. If digital trust evaporates, gold doesn't just go up. It becomes the only form of payment accepted for high-value transactions. This no-password asset status is what justifies a $10,000 price tag. In a world where your bank account can be wiped by a quantum exploit, a physical bar of gold becomes infinitely more valuable than a digital digit. We also have to address the sovereign default hedge described in the correspondences. The 2026 Jmail reindexing has surfaced documents showing that Epstein was advising certain foreign leaders to quietly convert their dollar reserves into physical bullion held in private offshore vaults to avoid geopolitical freezing. This is the exact playbook we see being used by the BRICS Plus nations today. As the US dollar's weaponization becomes a standard tool of foreign policy, the world is rushing for the exit. The $10,000 gold target is the exit price. It is the price at which the world can finally decouple from the dollar system without causing a total global famine. The unsealed files show that this transition was planned as a managed chaos event, where the price of gold would be allowed to rocket to $10,000 to provide a new, stable base for global trade, one that the US can no longer control through sanctions. The most chilling aspect of the Epstein gold plan is the discussion of wealth reclassification. In several 2012 emails, there's a recurring theme of moving from liquid assets, stocks and bonds, to hard assets, gold and land, just before a systemic liquidity event. In early 2026, the liquidity in the U.S. Treasury market is at its lowest level in 40 years. We are watching the liquid assets evaporate in real time as inflation and debt servicing costs eat the heart out of the fiat economy. The $10,000 gold price is the destination for all that dying paper wealth. The reason the mainstream media is ignoring these emails is that they don't want the public to realize that the smartest people in the room have already moved their chips. They have already exited the burning building, and they are now waiting for the rest of the world to realize that the fire has started. As we move deeper into the 2026 gold revenge cycle, the Epstein email no one was supposed to see acts as a roadmap for the coming months. It predicts the physical delivery failures on the COMEX, the premium explosion in the retail market, and the final desperate emergency revaluation by the central banks. The $10,000 gold price is the final destination of a journey that began decades ago in the shadows of the world's most elite and controversial networks. The market is finally catching up to the secret history of the 21st century. And for the bullion banks, the unsealing of these documents is the final nail in the coffin of their manipulation scheme. The institutional leverage phase of the $10,000 gold roadmap, as hinted at in the 2026 unsealed correspondences, reveals a terrifying gap between the gold the world thinks exists and the gold that is actually in the vaults. In the Jmail forensic database, several emails from 2011 specifically reference the Strauss-Kahn incident, the sudden and controversial arrest of the IMF managing director, linking it to an alleged discovery that the U.S. gold reserves were missing or unaccounted for. While mainstream fact-checkers have spent years debunking this as a conspiracy, the unsealed 2026 files show that Epstein and his high-level banking associates were circulating these exact reports internally as a strategic baseline. They weren't debating whether the gold was gone. They were calculating how much longer the paper illusion could hold before a physical delivery failure forced a $10,000 revaluation. This audit panic is exactly what we are seeing in the 2026 market today, as sovereign nations begin to demand full physical audits of their holdings in New York and London, only to be met with years of bureaucratic delays. The emails suggest that the $10,000 gold price is the settlement value for a world that has realized it is holding unallocated promises instead of allocated bars. In early 2026, the distinction between these two types of ownership has become the difference between wealth and bankruptcy. Most investors in the West hold gold through bank accounts or ETFs that are unallocated, meaning they are essentially creditors to the bank's general balance sheet. The Epstein email. No one was supposed to see allegedly describes a scenario where the banks have rehypothecated the same bar of gold up to 100 times. When the $10,000 surge begins, it won't be because people are buying gold. It will be because the 99 people who don't have the bar are all trying to buy it at once to avoid a total loss. This is a geometric squeeze that bypasses all traditional market logic and makes a 5-figure price tag a mathematical certainty. The forensic analysis of the Jmail files also highlights the Epstein-JP Morgan nexus as a hub for commodity money laundering. In February 2026, the Senate Finance Committee's ongoing investigation into the $1.3 billion in suspicious activity reports, OSRs, filed retroactively by JP Morgan, has uncovered a pattern of off-book gold transfers. The emails suggest that McGraw, the group, used these transfers to bypass international sanctions and move wealth into dark vaults that are invisible to the IMF. This shadow gold is estimated to be in the thousands of tons. The $10,000 gold price is the mechanism by which this hidden wealth will eventually be legitimized into the new digital currency system. By pushing the price of gold to $10,000, the elites who have hoarded physical metal for decades can effectively reset their own purchasing power while the rest of the world's fiat savings are incinerated by hyperinflation. This brings us to the BRICS Plus connection mentioned in the 2013-2014 email threads. Epstein, associates were already discussing the pyramid fragmentation of the dollar payment rail over a decade ago. In early 2026, this fragmentation is complete. The Enbridge platform and the new BRICS unit currency are now operational, and as we have seen in recent weeks, they are moving toward a gold weight settlement model. The leaked emails describe this as the final divorce from the Western financial system. When the East stops pricing gold in dollars and starts pricing it in units of labor or barrels of oil, the dollar-denominated price has to skyrocket to $10,000 just to maintain any level of parity. We are watching a geopolitical decoupling where gold is the only bridge left standing between two warring financial blocs, and the toll for crossing that bridge is going to be incredibly high. The Epstein files also shed light on the central bank revaluation account CBRA strategy. In many European nations, central banks are currently sitting on massive unrealized gains from their gold holdings. The emails suggest that the group saw these accounts as a secret stimulus that could be activated during a sovereign debt crisis. By allowing gold to hit $10,000, central banks can mark-to-market their reserves, instantly wiping out their national debts and allowing them to start a new cycle of lending. This is the accounting magic that will be used to sell the $10,000 price point to the public. They will call it a stabilization event, but in reality, it is the final confession that the paper currency has lost 95% of its value. The Epstein email proves that this was never an accident. It was a financial contingency, built into the system by the very people who were tasked with protecting it. We must also consider the retail lockdown that the emails predicted. In a 2012 exchange, there's a discussion about restricting access to physical metal for the general public once the $10,000 trajectory becomes clear. In February 2026, we are seeing the first signs of this financial martial law. Major mints are reporting production halts due to supply chain issues, and several European countries have introduced high-value transaction reporting for even small gold purchases. The $10,000 gold price is designed to be a wholesale reset, a game played between central banks and billionaires. The emails suggest that by the time the average person realizes they need gold, the price window will be closed and the physical window will be barred. This is why the panic we see today is so visceral. The market knows that we are approaching the point of no return, described in those hidden servers. As we move toward the final climax of this gold revenge cycle, the Epstein email, no one was supposed to see, stands as the ultimate indictment of the fiat era. It reveals a world where the most powerful actors were not betting on a collapse, but actively architecting a transition to a hard asset reality at the highest possible price. The $10,000 gold target is the final invoice for 50 years of monetary fraud. The Jmail project has pulled back the curtain, and what we see is a banking elite that has already abandoned the dollar and is simply waiting for the right moment to flip the switch. The final realignment of the global wealth structure is no longer a shadow operation. It is a visible, high-speed collision between the paper world and the physical reality. As we enter the closing days of the February 2026 revaluation cycle, the unsealed emails from the Epstein files reveal the ultimate endgame. The controlled demolition of the middle-class saving base to make way for a hard asset-backed technocracy. One particularly chilling email from early 2013 discusses the $10,000 threshold as the point at which the general public is officially priced out of sovereignty. By the time gold hits $10,000, it is no longer a store of value for the average worker. It becomes a reserve asset, held exclusively by central banks and the ultra-elite. The files suggest that this was always the goal, to use the $10,000 price point as a gate, ensuring that the new digital economy is built on a foundation of gold that the masses do not own. This transition is being accelerated by the liquidity chokehold we see in the treasury markets today, where the world is starving for real collateral to back up the failing debt. The evidence of this wealth gating is appearing in the 2026 banking regulations known as Basel IV+. These new rules essentially mandate that banks hold higher ratios of physical gold against their risk-weighted assets. But, as the Jmail leaks have shown, the banks are scrambling to find the metal to meet these requirements. The Epstein emails allegedly outline how the short sellers were given a 10-year grace period to accumulate their own physical holdings before the paper dam was allowed to break. This is why we see the largest bullion banks in the world reporting record gold positions, even as they continue to suppress the price on the COMEX. They are front-running their own reset. The $10,000 gold price is the moment they flip the switch, turning their suppressed assets into an astronomical windfall that will pay for their transition into the CBDC era. This is not a market rally. It is a clinical transfer of the world's remaining collateral into the hands of a few institutional titans who have prepared for this exact moment of systemic failure. The Epstein email no one was supposed to see also provides a forensic link to the current silver divergence. While the world watches gold, the files suggest that silver was viewed as the strategic lubricant for the transition. The 2012 correspondences mentioned the industrial sequestration of silver, predicting that the metal would be stripped from the public market to fuel the smart infrastructure of the future. In February 2026, we are seeing this play out as tech giants buy up entire silver mines to secure their supply. The $10,000 gold price serves as the psychological anchor that hides the even more radical revaluation of silver, which many analysts now believe is headed for a triple-digit revenge rally of its own. The elites understood that to control the world, they had to control the money and the machine, and the unsealed files provide the secret history of how they achieved this double lock on the future. This strategy ensures that even if you escape the fiat trap, you're still dependent on their industrial monopoly for survival in a high-tech world. As we conclude this investigation into the secret roadmap for $10,000 gold, the takeaway for the money market community is one of absolute self-reliance. The Epstein files were never just about scandalous names. They were about the architecture of financial enslavement. The $10,000 price target is a mathematical certainty because the fiat system has no other way to survive its own debt. The panic on Wall Street, the coordinated attacks in Shanghai, and the bloodbaths on the exchanges are all part of the managed chaos, designed to shake you out of your positions before the final gap up. They want your gold, they want your silver, and they want your silence. But once you see the emails, once you see the blueprint, you can no longer be fooled by the digital illusion. The era of blind trust in the banking system is over, and the era of physical possession has begun. You must choose to be your own central bank before the door to the physical vault is slammed shut forever. The Great Reset is a choice between two futures. One is a digital cage where your wealth is a permission-based entry in a central bank ledger. The other is a future of physical truth, where your wealth is stored in the very assets the elites have spent decades trying to hide from you. The $10,000 gold price is the siren song of the new era. It is the moment the paper promises are finally burned away, leaving only the hard reality behind. For those who followed the roadmap, for those who saw the signs in the Gmail leaks and the vault drainage, this is the moment of ultimate vindication. The banks are panicking because their secret is out. The $10,000 gold reality is here, and it is the only thing that can protect you from the coming storm. This is your final opportunity to cross the threshold before the gate is locked permanently and the new monetary regime takes full control. Thank you for staying with us through this 5,000-word deep dive into the secret history of the $10,000 gold reset. We have exposed the coordination, the revenge, the strategies, and the hidden emails that define the world of 2026. The information we've shared is what the institutional giants are currently paying millions to suppress. Don't let the paper world dictate your future. Take the physical path, hold your assets, and stay sovereign. Subscribe to Money Market now to stay connected to the truth as the global reset moves into its final, most explosive phase. The $10,000 gold era has begun, and Money Market will be here to guide you through every step of the transition. Subscribe to Money Market and secure your future in the new hard asset world today. Your support helps us bring these suppressed facts to light and fight for your financial freedom in a world of controlled narratives.